Black Tor, Raven, best bitter.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I have just come back from Cornwall and Devon as well, and I have to say the weather was fucking shite, but the beer I think came with the weather. I have to say the general synopsis on the beer down there, with a couple of exceptions which I'll go into in a bit, but the general synopsis was, it wasn't that great. Most of the pubs down there are St Austell pubs, St Austell Brewery pubs I should say. Now I have to say St Austell beer, it really doesn't do much for me at all. Their Tribute, which is their flagship beer, even on draft it was just very, very average. And the alternatives to that were Sharp's Brewery beer, and I think they're owned by Marstons. And I'm not going to name the pub, but I was in a region of Cornwall where we stayed called St Teith. Well, it's actually called St Teth, but I called it St Teith because it's spelled T-E-A-T. I thought St Teith was the patron saint of dentures. Apparently not. But there was a pub near there. I'm not going to say which one, but I had to return a pint twice because the beer was bad. And when I say bad, I mean it had been sat. I did try some of their dark beer. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. It's gone. I'll put the name up here. It really wasn't good. Now I've tried that in the bottle and it was just okay. I mean it wasn't great, but for a Marstons beer it was slightly above average. But again, not anything to write home about. But this pint was terrible. And they did some of the Tintagel beer, or Tintagel Brewery beer, and I had to give that back as well. Again, it had been sat for ages and it had slightly oxidised, and you were getting that vinegary taste of it. Everybody in the pub was drinking Doombar. That's what was flowing, and I am fucked if I am drinking Doombar. No, thank you. Maybe I should have tried it, you know, because it's apparently it's still brewed in Cornwall on draft down there, which would make sense because that's where it's supposedly from. But as you know, it's a Marstons beer now, and a lot of it is brewed in Burton-on-Trent. But yeah, general synopsis was not great. The Tintagel Brewery, I have tried some of their stuff before and I was impressed with it. Bit disappointed, I have to say, even from the brewery as well. It was just very, very average, nothing to write home about. And if it's going to be good anywhere, it's going to be at the brewery. I mean, the brewery was impressive. You could walk around and you could see the stuff being actually brewed. They had one brewer there doing everything. He was mixing, I don't know what he was brewing, but he was mixing up some stuff. Got some photos of it, which I'll put on when I review the Tintagel Brewery beer. I've got a few of them bottles in the fridge. But there was a shining light in the most boring town in Cornwall. Now there's a place called Launceston, I think that's how it's pronounced, and there was a pub called the Bell Inn, and it was a camera awarded real ale pub. And me and wife Zilla we went in there, and I had a pint of Hunter's Brewery, the Royal Hunt, and I have to say it was absolutely superb. Really nice beer, but that came from Devon, and Launceston is quite near the Devon-Cornwall border, so there was a few Devon beers in there. And again, Devon beer, this is a Devon beer. Even though I've just come back from Cornwall, we did go to Devon as well to see her sister, or my sister-in-law, and her fella. He's a biker. He's just sold his bike. He's bikeless now, and probably not going to buy another one. he's getting on a bit now, so can't ride. So yeah, he's got rid of his Harley, and it was a lovely Harley as well. It was a Road King, and if I had the money, I would have bought it. But it was a lovely bike. Really, he brought it over from the US. He was American. He's actually from Santa Cruz, and he brought it over. It was a lovely bike. Really nice custom paint job on it and everything, and yeah, I just haven't got that sort of money, unfortunately, so that never happened. But we were in Devon, a place called Oakhampton. That's where our sister lives, near there, on Dartmoor basically, and the nearest sort of town was Oakhampton, and we went into one of the shops there, and it was the local Devon produce, and of course they had a beer section. My eyes lit up, and I was a bit limited on funds, so I had to choose wisely which beers I bought. So I've got some Devon beers in there as well, and they're in the fridge, but I did get some Cornish beers and some Devon beers as well. And I'm going to start with a Devon beer because, to be honest, I haven't got much hope for the Cornish beer, but the Devon beer, if the Hunter's Brewery is anything to go by, I got some of this stuff. This is the Black Tor Brewery Raven Best Bitter. Now, I liked what they did. They had their core range available in the shop, and they do a best bitter, they do an English pale ale, they do a New World pale ale, and they do a Devon ale as well. And I have to say, I like on paper what they're doing, because especially where they're naming the beers very descriptively, i.e. they do an English pale ale and they also do a New World pale ale, which I think is good, and I think more craft brewers should do that. They shouldn't just assume that pale ale is an American style beer. They shouldn't assume that IPAs are, but I don't want to go into a rant, so I've just come back off holiday. I don't want to get stressed. I'm de-stressed at the moment, even though there's a 5-hour drive back. We done it quite early in the morning, and I'd done that in 4.5 hours in the car, which is not bad going. If only the traffic was like that all the time. Anyway, a little bit about the Black Tor Brewery. Black Tor, a Tor, just in case you're wondering, is sort of unique to Cornwall and Devon. I don't know whether they have Tors up north, but that's the only region I've heard them being called Tors. And they're like big hills. They're sort of in between a hill and a mountain. And I've been up a few of them actually on Dartmoor, and yeah, quite interesting. You do see a lot of the scenery from them as well, and there is some absolutely fantastic scenery in Cornwall. What they lack in beer, they make up for in scenery, and the food was good down there as well. Did try some really good food in some of the pubs down there, and the pasties, of course. You can't go wrong with a Cornish pasty. But this lot, Black Tor, they're based near Exeter in a place called Churstow, and they've been going since 2013. And I like what they do. They say they're only using English hops, which is good. Unfortunately, there's no brew sheet, so I can't tell you what the ingredients are. But enough about that. Let's get on to the next section. Right, it's 4.2%. It's a 500ml bottle, and it's a 500ml bottle. It's 4.2%. Here is the label. Raven Best Bitter, and there's the gumph on the back, which I will read out to you. This has won a few awards actually, SEBA awards and a few local awards as well. It's won a gold SEBA award, which I think is good. That I respect them SEBA awards. They are not your 2-bob awards that you know some brewers pay for, and they just stick a label on the side of it saying it's award winning. Raven Best Bitter. Award-winning chestnut brown best bitter, brewed with all English hops. Doesn't say which, unfortunately. Rich, malty and full-bodied with notes of caramel and summer fruit aroma. Black Tor Brewery, 5 and 6, Gidley's Meadow, I should say. Churstow, Exeter, Devon. Ingredients: water, yeast, hops, barley and wheat. And that is about it. So, without further ado, let's get it open and let's see what's going on. Just to let you know, this was £2.59 from that shop. Now, as I say with all these beers that are a little bit obscure, either from up north or down here, you may have trouble if you're living up north or Midlands or wherever getting these beers. These are available in the southwest apparently. Not as widely available as the St Austell stuff, but they are available. I did see some of the Bath Ales Brewery beer down there. Of course, they're owned by St Austell as well, so that was par for the course, really. This was £2.59. The cap is just plain silver. Nothing to see there. Let's get it in the oldie glass. I don't know how dirty this glass is. It's been on the shelf for a week. I'm hoping it's going to be okay. Right, and here it is in the glass. Strong aromas. I can get them from here. Oh, and it smells lovely. Oh, really nice. Exactly what I would expect in a bitter. Nice spicy bitterness from the hops. And there's a caramel, a big seam of caramel running through that as well. Head retention is really good, I have to say. And that is a nice amber stroke chestnut colour. But the head on that, I am impressed. Now the wheat in this will give it body and some of the head retention as well. It's 4.2%, which is, if this is nice, this is the perfect session ABV in my opinion, 4.2. But yeah, it looks like a nice pint, uniform, tightly packed white bubbles, apart from just around the very top. But the aromas are what's doing it for me. Oh, it's lovely. Big, thick seam of caramel malt on that. Almost like Maris Otter. It's got that nice crystal malt Maris Otter type sweetness to it. That's nice. That is really nice. And it does have a little bit of fruit, but the big thing about this is the malt. Now, will it be good on the palate? Let's find out. Bottoms up. And that's nice. That is a really nice bitter. From a bottle, that is superb. Oh, I'm liking that. That's full of flavour. Really good. And I have to say, Devon seem to know what they're doing when it comes to beer compared to Cornwall. St Austell are like I wouldn't say the mafia, but they basically own most of or run most of the pubs in Cornwall. There are a few exceptions, as I say. Some of them do the Rock Brewery beer, which isn't great at all. But this stuff, oh, it's lovely. That aroma is superb. Lovely caramel malt. It's nice. Only slight problem I've got with it is I would have liked a little bit more spicy bitterness on the finish, but that's just a minor gripe. There is a bitterness there, but the caramel malt is doing it for me. That's really big on the palate and on the finish as well. As I say, I would have liked a bit more spice on the finish, a bit more hop character, English hop character, but that is a minor gripe. You know, sometimes you get these bitters that have a bit more of one than the other. Sometimes you do just get all the hop character in there where you need to have it balanced. This is a bit malt heavy, and to be honest, if I'm going to have something, certainly on an English bitter, I would say if it really came down to it, in an ideal world, it would be balanced between malt and hops. Nice malty flavours on the palate, and then on the finish, that's where your spicy, earthy mustiness comes in from the English hops. But it's slightly lacking on the finish. And this is the perfect temperature. This is about cellar temperature. I've taken it out of the fridge. It's sat there for a while. Let it warm up slightly, and this is perfect. If I was in a pub, that is the temperature I would expect it to be, coming straight from a cask. But it's really nice. Oh, I do like that. Sadly, not your archetypal English bitter, but it's still good. I mean, it sounds like I'm being harsh on it, but yeah, it is really good. I do like this. Lovely mouthfeel, big body to it as well. Of course, that's the wheat that's doing that. That'll give it the body, and the head retention, of course, is great on that too. Really nice, and yeah, mouthfeel superb. There is little carbonation in there, but and the lacing on the glass as well. I mean, look at that. That is really nice. Yeah, not a lot to complain about really. Just I would have liked a little bit more hop character on that, but yeah, I could drink this, several of them. I'd love to try this on cask. From a well-kept cask, that would be absolutely gorgeous. I'm just noticing on the aroma, I'm getting some roasted malt notes on there too. And that is really nice. It's a mixture between sweet, what I think are either crystal malt or Marisotta, that kind of sweetness, and you are getting a little bit of fruit on there, and some of the hop character. Unfortunately, the hop character doesn't really translate to the finish. Don't get me wrong, it is in there, but it's not big. This is all about the malt, but it's really nice. It's really nice malt, good quality ingredients that have gone into this too. And I have to say, I am loving this. This is really nice. So what is the verdict on Black Tor Raven Best Bitter? Well, I can see how this one has won an award. It's quite moorish, very sessionable at 4.2. And the only gripe for me is that the hop character is a little bit lacking. It is there, don't get me wrong, but in a bitter, I do like more bitterness, spicy bitterness on the finish. But as I have to say, this is more than making up for it in flavour though, and it's good flavour as well. So I'm not gonna really labour that point too much. Really good mouthfeel, very drinkable, very sessionable. Yeah, no nasties in there whatsoever. Just good all-round English beer from the West Country. And I have to say, and I really don't like saying this because I like Cornwall, I like the people in Cornwall, I've got a couple of mates who live down there. I have to say already that Devon, I think, has the upper hand when it comes to beer. Now, I don't know what cider's like in Cornwall and Devon, and I imagine Somerset has got the monopoly on that, but I don't know, I think where Cornwall has got St Austell in every pub, well, most of the pubs, it's very few, even the free houses, you go into them and they've got St Austell beer on them, or the Sharps Brewery beer. They're not really free houses. I don't know, they have to cater for the masses, the tourists that are down there. You will always get a pint of Doombar down there. You'll get the Korev lager. I have tried the Korev lager down there, and again, I stand by my original review of it. It's just average. I mean, a lot of subscribers and viewers have said I should try the Korev down there, and I have. And to be honest, it was just nondescript, really. I had one pint of it on a extremely wet day. We went to Tintagel Castle, you know, King Arthur's castle. We went there, and we ended up in this pub, and just to get out of the rain, me and the missus got something to eat, and I had a pint of that. I wouldn't say it was fantastic, considering it was a local beer. It was, yeah, it was just okay, but yeah, I came away from Cornwall thinking that the beer down there, or the local beer, wasn't that great. But Devon, I think with that one pint, I think you've topped them. However, when I compare this to some of the really good bitters that I do like, the one that does spring to mind is the Coniston Bluebird, which is one of my favourite bitters. There's obviously other bitters that I've had on the channel, the Cotley Best Bitter, and which is, you know, just from the next county. I think they're slightly better, but this is still good, don't get me wrong. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 7.5, and that sounds like I'm being a bit harsh, but that's a solid 7.5, and it's just my taste. if you see this, if you're down the southwest and you see this on cask, I would urge you to get it. However, if they've got the Hunters, the Royal Hunt Best Bitter, get that. That was a really nice bitter, almost like an ESB. It was 5.5%, and for me that was probably one of the highlights of the beer in Cornwall, was a beer from Devon. So I worked that one out. But this is good. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Definitely recommend it. But again, as I always say with these regional beers, which is a shame as well, if you're not sort of down in that region, you're probably not going to be able to get it. So if you're up in Yorkshire or whatever, you might not drink anything outside at People's Republic. But if you do go on your travels and you see some of this, I would recommend this, because you're going to like it. If you're a fan of English ale and you're a fan of bitters, and I do mean traditional English bitters, you're going to love this. Really nice, really Moorish as well. The malt is a big thing in this, and it's great. I love it. That's a 7.5, but a solid 7.5. And the only reason I'm not giving it an 8 is because I think just the hop character just isn't there. Well, it is there, but not in abundance, as it should be. But it's still good. I do recommend this. And yeah, if you see it, get it. Cask or bottle, it's going to be good. And remember, beer is working class. Champagne.